China have been going through severe bank runs recently, and if we try to Google it, it's really hard to find any trustable information. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Week in Crypto. And it's been quite a while. We prepared a lot of exciting, crazy, and very heavy news that were happening for the last few weeks. So today, I'm your host, Elena Obukhova. Today I will be covering all this news and sharing opinion. And I want to give a word to my co-host, Carly.
Thanks everybody for sticking with us. We're getting back on our weekly uploads, but we're going to be talking about the bank runs in China, SEC regulations, Web3 investors, jumping on some really great projects and more. I'm not going to waste any time. Let's start with the bank runs in China. I immediately think of the movie It's a Wonderful Life, when people are like running to the bank and they're wanting to pull out all their money. So can you talk a little bit about what's happening there and potentially how it will affect the rest of the world and crypto?
Yes, China have been going through severe bank runs recently, and if we try to Google it, it's really hard to find any trustable information. Also, you will not see it announced like on major media outlets. They do publish some news about bank runs in China, but obviously it's not making front page, I would say, or front news that it should. And the reason is whole Chinese banking system and the whole Chinese economy is so closely connected to international one. There were so many loans taken from US banks. China was giving loans to companies worldwide. And if you know about our recent Chinese policy, they were investing in a lot of developing countries around the world. They were investing in agriculture, in manufacturing, in different other production sectors, banking, construction, all over the world, starting from obviously Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Europe and other countries. And with all that said, China was giving a lot of loans to these international countries and international companies in other locations that are not experiencing their best times. If we saw recently, there was a huge protest in Sri Lanka where locals stormed their prime minister's office. And it's not the only case. People are protesting around the world. Economies are suffering and going through severe crisis. And of course, that's impacting countries and banks that were giving them loans. It's not coming from internal economy. It's always going from somewhere overseas. And when these overseas are going through troubles, that's when we can hit our serious global crisis. Of course, don't want to scare anyone, but it's just we need to face the reality. And going back to China. So the situation was as following. China has lots of restrictions for banking sector, and it was way easier for local agricultural banks to give I would say different form of financial products that they and we can share more information about that later on with the audience on our media portal, just to give you more information and maybe some links to read in more detail. But just to say short, these banks were able to give a very attractive interest rate to their customers if they deposit their funds. And as they were advertising it, it seemed like it's a normal bank deposit that, of course, will be protected by a central bank and that will have a certain insurance. But it actually wasn't. It wasn't a secured deposit, and here we come to a question whether it's a central bank problem, whether it's this local bank problem, is it the government, or is it their personal responsibility? And people should be accountable for not doing research. I always say that, first of all, of course, it's your responsibility to do research and check what kind of financial products you are purchasing and where you're depositing your money. And of course, it's easy to make a mistake if you are not doing such a research. And even if you do, we had so many examples of Ponzi schemes where even the largest investment banks were depositing their funds. But going back to individuals, yes, obviously they were believing in these banks. They were believing that their deposits are in a secure, stored in a secure way, and they're going to get their interest rate that is higher, of course, than the ones offered by your bigger banks. And the thing is, when people started withdrawing funds, bank obviously didn't have enough money. So they were going through a severe crisis due also to collapse of real estate sector. They of course invested their money. And with that said, they already had financial problems. They didn't have enough liquidity. They didn't have enough cash. When people started withdrawing their funds due to COVID pandemic and people needed more cash out, they started looking for ways how they can freeze withdrawals. And of course, they were giving different excuses, that they had some technical issues with the mobile app. It will be back to normal very soon, but it didn't. People started questioning what's going wrong. So more people started going to ATMs, and that turned into panic when people would run and storm. And it started in Henan province, where people stormed the banks, they started withdrawing their funds. And of course, the ATM at some moment was just blocking their card, saying they cannot use it anymore. The most ridiculous thing for me is that people who were traveling from other regions, and in China, if you're traveling between regions, you have to show their COVID pass. There's COVID pass that either turns red, yellow, or green, and they had their passes green before they were coming to Henan province. But when they were on the border, it magically turned red. And these people obviously weren't allowed. When they came back home, it magically turned green again. So it's an interesting way how you can prevent people from traveling to a place where you don't want them to go. And that made people really outrageous. So in China, there are massive protests right now. I saw footage with tanks being used against peaceful protesters. That's quite insane. And the situation that they brought it obviously to central bank, and they were still asking for certain help from financial institutions. Right now, Chinese government is saying that they will help people with accounts less than 50,000 yuan. I would say it's roughly. Don't want to say a wrong number. I think it's around $1,000 or something like that. Again, don't want to say a wrong number, but less than 50,000 yuan, people can recover their funds. And some people had millions of yuan on their account. How can it help? They had their whole savings. And for me, I would say a personal conclusion is that you need to do your own research. You need to think where you're putting your money, and you need to always diversify your portfolio. Because you can rely on an institution, you can rely on any other company, but when it comes to a crisis, it's you who's gonna lose your money, and no one else is gonna help you. So since no one else is gonna help you, I think it should be your responsibility in the first place to make sure you diversify and you're putting money in a more places and more secured institutions, or at least you understand the risk. And, I'm personally against all banks and institutions, even though I understand we still have to face with banks, we still have to use these institutions for business transactions, for some personal transactions. Unfortunately, we're not living in a magical world where cryptocurrency can help you with everything else. But I'm just saying, don't trust anyone, trust yourself. That will probably help. And let's also come back next week on this topic with bank runs and see how the situation is evolving. Because I do think that can lead, if banks will start crashing, and they already start crashing in China, it can expose a severe crisis and can lead to severe crisis in China that will affect the rest of the world.
Do you see, it's a kind of a parallel or maybe similar situation to what happened in the United States in 2008? And do you think that there would be any type of bailout in the future? Do you want to play that by ear as well?
I think it might be way bigger than 2008. Honestly, I see it's only starting, and some banks already going bankrupt. Construction and real estate sector in China also going through major, I would say, major shocks. And we saw already one of the largest construction companies failing in China. And that, of course, led and it's exposed that lots of banks had unsecured assets. They didn't diversify their investments. They put their individual accounts at risk through their decisions. And I think it's our beginning. Or is there more things going to come? Is there more banks going to fail? People all over China will be protesting. And of course, it opens better opportunities for crypto because there are people losing trust in these institutions, and there is a reason for it. It's all magically working with banks until it doesn't.
Yeah, there was a lot there. I think that the main thing would be, like you said, to do your research and start trusting yourself to take care of your finances. And I do know that as you're listening on Supermoon Station, I will link down below. Elena did a really great talk on data privacy, and she really took you step by step through protecting your data. But there's also some really great information on, how to keep your crypto yours and, your keys, your crypto. And that's basically, I think, the move that a lot of people are going to be taking as we see what's happening with the bank runs in China.
Also covered China a little bit there too, explaining how all the personal information is being used to not to only monitor people, but also indirectly manipulate. I mean, it's happening everywhere. I just gave a really good example of China, and we see there even more now with COVID passes.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm going to be honest here, something that I didn't even know about as you were talking about that. It just, it was a kind of eye-opening, alarming to me to hear about that. And I'm sure for everybody else that's listening who may not have known about that, it kind of the alarm bells went off, that doesn't sound the best, but anyway. I'm going to move on to some SEC regulations that were happening, and I first wanted to talk about what happened with the Coinbase product manager who was recently charged with insider trading. Apparently he was giving information to his brother and one of his friends. Now, him and his brother have both been, they're in custody, so, allegedly up on charges right now, while the friend is still on the run. And Coinbase is also under investigation over improperly letting Americans trade digital assets, which should have been registered as securities. So my question to you would be, how do we proceed with caution amid the SEC coming in and starting regulations, and do you think Coinbase will recover trust?
First of all, insider trading is really a common part of all banking and investment. It's happening everywhere, and he just got caught, and lots of people weren't. And just we can discuss this topic a lot. And since I'm always covering that, I don't believe in protection from regulators, and I believe in a larger transparency that can eliminate or regulate our insider trading opportunities on itself and make it I don't want to use the word fair, because nothing is fair and it shouldn't be fair, because being unfair makes people more motivated and more invested. I'm meaning personally in education and other aspects of their life. But at the same time, I think that when we talk about insider trading, it's also we assume that these assets are under protection, and there's a regulation that says you are not allowed to do insider trading. At the same time, for example, investments in tokens, token trading, crypto trading is unregulated. You can use whatever insider information you want. And I know people who are, again, it's not illegal. It's completely legal and it's allowed. And for example, are people who are running a lot of token funds, or people who are running token fundraising platforms, are they naturally coming across so much important information that gives them understanding of the market. They also know news updates on what's going to happen with a certain project, and they know when to invest and when it's time to cash out. And no one is coming after them, and I don't think they should. I think there should be a better way to regulate it. It shouldn't be a government institution coming and saying, hey, you weren't supposed to share this information with your friend or with your sibling. Please, now you have to go to prison. No, I think there should be a better way to get information more accessible. And it is quite accessible right now. I mean, more than ever before. People can do their own research. They can get our public information. And the only problem is that, we unfortunately cannot know everything when you are talking to these companies and you're involved in the process. I think that for Coinbase, it shouldn't be a really big shock. I mean, it's not Coinbase itself is doing any insider trading. If we're just talking about our public image and how retail or institutional investors can look at them. So I don't think it should be a big of a problem, because again, insider trading, show me an investment bank where it wasn't the case. Then we can talk about it. I don't say that, it's not investment bank, but I'm just saying, investment banks are not being hurt with their insider trading clause. And I'm saying it's even beneficial for them to attract more institutional funds at some moments, when, of course, no one's going to say about it. But unfortunately, it's a situation. We just need to find a better way, or maybe we don't. I don't know. I don't have yet an opinion on that topic, but I'm just saying that I don't think market will care in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, when I first heard the news, I was kind of like, okay, that's one person. We have the product manager from Coinbase. But on the other hand, it's kind of personally infuriating when you kind of see, all of these government officials doing the exact same thing, and they've chosen one person from Coinbase. That was just my take on it. I saw some other memes about it, which I might post.
Exactly. I just feel, when we look at the politicians like Nancy Pelosi, who is obviously investing in stocks and then somehow participating in the interesting regulatory updates or new laws that are coming to the market, that somehow I think it's a coincidence, but they affect the companies that she was investing in. For everyone else, of course, it's obvious. And I just saying more transparency on your financial decisions and what kind of investments you are making. Will just, I wouldn't say it prevents insider trading from happening. I just think insider trading wouldn't be such a secret thing, because whatever move you're making, people can make their own decisions. If they see that, oh, you're buying certain stocks and they know that you are also in relationships with certain companies that you're making your decisions on, maybe you know something, but you don't know if you know it or not. And you can also adjust your financial decision. It's a very complicated question. Of course, I don't have an answer there, but again, it happens. And reality is market doesn't react that much in the long term on the insider trading news. It's just short-term corrections that will get back.
Another story in the news this week was Kraken under investigation for violating US Treasury by allowing Iranian users. There was a statement by Kraken that said that they are working together in order to maintain and follow the rules. So they're working on that, but they may receive a fine. Do you think that's just the price of doing business? Do you think that we might see this again? What are your thoughts on the Kraken news? It just came up about 24 hours ago.
I personally always feel so sorry for companies that have to deal with such unfair regulations. Whereas, why do we put such restrictions on the citizens that are being affected by severe political and economic problems that live sometimes under undesired regime? And it's the same for Iran, it's the same for Russia, that recently went on a blacklist at every single institution, and Russian citizens right now cannot even withdraw their money overseas if they want to move out from Russia. So it puts a lot of, I would say, pressure on citizens, and it puts a lot of restrictions on citizens when it shouldn't. I believe in a free, I wouldn't call in a completely free market. What is free market after all? But what I'm saying, I believe in a market free from this kind of regulations. And crypto is one of the major ideas behind crypto is to give access to financing to every single person. And that just simply shows you that Kraken is not exactly a crypto exchange as we're imagining. It's centralized institutions that gives you access to certain crypto products and gives you a gateway into cryptocurrency. But then it's your own job to withdraw it from exchange. And unfortunately, because they are on this front line, they still have to be compliant with regulations. And that's not because they're touching crypto, it's because they're touching fiat. So whenever you are touching fiat, you come under certain regulations and pressure from institutions. And that's the case with Kraken. They unfortunately have to comply, and they can disagree with that. And I know that Kraken also was releasing statement before on a situation with Russia, but unfortunately, it's very little what they can do in this situation. And they have to work with their government somehow to stay in business. At the same time, it's also unfair to charge them with with allowing Iranian people to get access to our accounts, because it's so easy, first of all, to get their fake ID that you can still use to get through KYC. Kraken doesn't have access to this massive global databases where they can check all information on individuals. We have VPN that helps you to get access to resources that are banned, restricted, or just move your IP to other locations, so Kraken will not know that you're in Iran. There are so many ways, and there are so many loopholes that you can use to create an account. So it's also a little bit unfair to them. I don't think they did anything wrong. I do think that right now they have no other choice but to work with regulators. Of course, it's about them staying in business, so that's why they're cooperating. But at the same time, I'm just again explaining that centralized exchanges is your gateway to crypto, but it's not exactly crypto what we believe in.
I know that Kraken's mission statement on their official mission statement is that they are all for the mass adoption of cryptocurrency. And so I think that, with that play there is they, of course, have to be a centralized exchange in order to maybe further the mass adoption of cryptocurrency. That's like their main mission. Everything that they do is tied to that mission. It's their guiding flagship. So yes, I do think that it's kind of a bit unfair, maybe, this violation. But I think that they're just going to move on from that, and they'll get a fine and continue, of course, working with the Treasury in order to follow those rules and regulations. It's just my 2 cents on that. I wanted to move on to there were some positive news stories this week. So we had Neil Stephenson, who he's a very famous sci-fi author. He coined the term metaverse. He's wanting to and has started to build a blockchain for supporting creators. And I found that story very interesting, and I wanted to ask your opinion on, do you think that more blockchains will come out with more of that specific focus by certain people like Neil Stephenson, who is known for his sci-fi writing. Now he's jumping into the tech space.
Again, we're in the very, very beginning of our establishment of a whole space, and right now, when we talk about blockchains and all these top tier projects that existing on the market, are either layer 1, layer 2, they're still figuring out the market. They're still figuring out how they are going to grow and what's going to happen. As again, when Ethereum started, they didn't expect such a demand for, let's say, NFTs. And that probably was the last thing on their mind, that not that smart contracts will be used at that extent, in NFT projects, compared to, I don't know, DeFi or other applications that could be built on Ethereum blockchain. And they, of course, hit the limitations of their technology, because it wasn't designed to be that scalable and that fast as market was demanding. And immediately we started seeing new blockchains that already accounted for this scalability, such a demand, and the market are adapting certain trends. So they started advancing their technology, looking at previous projects. And of course, it's going to continue growing this way. So we don't know how market will be changing. We didn't know that there's going to be a really huge hype in NFT segment if we are, for example, in 2014. We probably wouldn't even believe that will be happening with such a craziness. And I don't know. So right now, I would say that personalization in the blockchain might be an interesting aspect as well. People want to also get access to technology in a simpler way. It's still very complicated for individuals, especially outside of crypto space, to even understand what blockchain technology is. So explaining and bringing them a better way to build and create on it, of course, there will be a significant part for mass adoption. If right now, and I know I was bringing this example several times, but avalanche advertising at the subway, that was so complicated. Even I couldn't understand what they were trying to say in their advertising. How can we imagine other people outside of crypto understanding what exactly they're doing and what they can do on top of avalanche? when it has a really serious tech and a room for creativity and creation of a new projects. They also have a high scalability, but no one understands what that is and why do you need the scalability. What are these TPS? No one understands it. And I think having blockchains that are changing it in a certain way and making it easier to understand, easier to create on, can be a way to mass adoption.
I immediately, as soon as I saw the posting that Neil Stephenson was working on something, I admit I kind of like fangirled a little bit. He wrote the book Snow Crash. It's really, really good. So I got really excited about that. We also had some very positive investor news from Unstoppable Domains. They had received $65 million and a $1 billion valuation. And I wanted to kind of segue into identity because, of course, I would say their main business is like domains, which is identity or digital identity. And with having one domain or one digital identity in that sense, what positives do you see and what potential risks might you see as well? And congrats, I guess, to them.
One of the interesting, I would say, applications of blockchain technology is digital identity, and are helping you to protect and take an ownership over your identity. So having your name on a blockchain connected to your financial information, other personal information, and making sure that you have, of course, a private key and you're not showing it to anyone, can make your life way easier. You don't need to have this paper passport or some special ID. You don't need to have any additional documents. You don't need to line up at the government office to get some meaningless paper just to show to some other government office, because you simply are not talking to each other. And of course, merging all these things in one can come with the greatest convenience, especially when you have an ownership of this information and you can decide what information you want to show to each of the parties. And they can always verify that it's actually you and no one else. But there can be still a risk of your identity being stolen, your financial information being exposed, your other personal information being exposed, if you simply don't store it in a more secure way. When we're talking about just domains right now, and I know everyone is right now obsessed with ENS, are they getting also other crypto-related domains on Unstoppable Domains that, yeah, as you mentioned, just raised their new round. And of course, it makes just a simple financial transaction easier. But if you listen to my data privacy talk, there I'm also explaining that you don't want to have one wallet. You want to have as many as possible. And you want to make sure that you're transacting in a way that people cannot easily understand that it's your wallet and you store money there. Whereas whenever you fill in some application, let's say you are going to event, and right now lots of event organizers in the crypto space, they will ask you to provide your wallet. And I was giving this example that my friend actually have a very simple algorithms that quickly checks the balance of each of the wallets and can determine if there are certain whales, and of course sending them a personal invite. And for me, I was kind of shocked when I heard it. I was like, what? People actually sending wallets where they have lots of funds on? And he was like, yeah, lots of people actually submitting their wallets, and they have a large amount of money sitting on this wallet, and they use this wallet for their, like for event applications. for me, I was personally shocked because every time I fill in application, it's a newly generated wallet. I never used it, and I don't have any incentive to use it. If they send me something valuable, maybe later I will transfer it to another temporary wallet that I'm using for that case. But it will never ever touch my actual wallet. And I think that's another concern that I have. So it's cool to transact in an easier way, but security is still a really big concern because in this case, it's your responsibility to store your funds, and there's always a possibility that you can be hacked if you maybe put your private key, like even temporarily on your laptop or somewhere else. There are so many ways how this information can be exposed. Domains right now just start having ownership over your domain and use it for some business purpose or some simple transaction, some fun transaction. Of course, it's cool. But if we're talking about bridging it with something bigger, like your identity, like your personal information, we need to figure out a really good way we're going to protect this data.
Yeah, to reference that data privacy talk, it was eye-opening for me, especially when you mentioned like the food delivery apps. I was like, man, I am so guilty. Like, just those steps that you would take to actually protect your data and your digital identity online was huge. So again, that will be linked down below. And not to take our listeners on a roller coaster, but we're going back to some news last week. Tesla had sold 75% of its Bitcoin, looking to free some cash. My question would be, do you think that they're going to reinvest in the future? A lot of people were concerned about it really affecting Bitcoin, but it seems to, be okay. What are your thoughts on the Tesla selling
First
Bitcoin?
of all, I think time a little bit passed when people were going crazy about what Tesla is doing and Tesla is not doing. It was like certain news are working for a certain period of time. Then people just get tired and they're like, oh, whatever is Tesla doing? Like, we don't care anymore. So that's part of the reason why it didn't affect Bitcoin price. Another reason, Bitcoin hitting, and lots of experts were saying, again, I don't want it to be treated as any financial advice. I always have to say it, non-financial advice, not investment advice. But Bitcoin is at a low level right now. And it's I wouldn't call it even psychological mark, because I think right now it's almost at the bottom from where it could be, based on all estimations from market, from just historical data, from adoption of Bitcoin and interest from all sides, institutions, retail investors. It is harder for it to go way lower than that. So corrections like Tesla can affect it in the short term. It can affect it just a little bit based on, again, like number of amount of Bitcoins that were sold. But in terms of it being a huge news that will cause a massive market move, no. Like, no one cares anymore. Like, it's like the time has passed, and I think that it can be a little bit different. I'm not saying with a confidence, but I'm saying that it can be a little bit different during the bull market.
As well, we saw BlackRock had lost $1.7 trillion of investor funds due to Russian overexposure. And, that tying in with Russia banning cryptocurrency on everyday payments. So if you were to go to like a vendor and you wanted to buy groceries with cryptocurrency, they wouldn't be able to accept that. So what are your thoughts on the BlackRock situation? I know it's still being talked about. And, how do you see that playing out for cryptocurrency?
During this market crash, we had so many crypto projects being exposed, landing platforms, and don't want to drop names here, but most of you already know. Companies were filing for bankruptcy. They weren't unable to pay back their depositors. Of course, simply they didn't have any funds. Of course, they did risky investments, or they did unsecure financial decisions. And people were blaming, oh, wow, crypto is so unregulated. There are so many opportunities to do risky investments, and no one cares about depositors. Investors are not protected, blah, 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 blah. There are so many talks about that. And then the news with BlackRock is hitting and making it in the front line. And I'm just thinking, yeah, and no one discussing how bad is BlackRock, how unwise, what unwise decisions it was making with its investments, because it's always a gamble. When something is working and earning you money, and sometimes you cannot think clear, sometimes you cannot withdraw your funds immediately or in the right moment, you're making certain decisions. And that's why some people earning money and some people are not. And that's how market works. If everyone was just earning funds from markets, we wouldn't have markets. It's just, it cannot exist. And of course, it's always based on the financial decisions. And I'm not saying that someone is right, someone is wrong in this situation. I, again, want to make sure that people feel accountable for their personal investments, for their personal investment decisions before they do any transactions, before they put deposits in whatever financial institution. Either it's crypto or it's a fiat-based financial institution. You don't know where your money is going. You have to either trust them and take a risk of them failing you and understand that risk, that they can lose all your money. And with that in mind, you can make this financial decision. But if you are giving blindly your funds to whatever institution and believe that they're going to give you 10% APY risk-free, or for example, BlackRock was always, let's say, like it was always earning at least, 5% annual, and you would say, oh, okay, they were earning it for like 5 years, so this year will be same, but it might not be. And I'm not saying obviously it's the case with them, just giving an example. So with BlackRock, obviously they made certain financial decisions that resulted in people losing their funds. And no one is attacking them as much as people attacking companies in crypto. That there are certain other, of course, news that were coming there, and I understand the reasons. But I'm just saying crypto and fiat, that certain ways are not that different when it comes to financial decisions. You can win or you can lose. And I think BlackRock case showed that no matter how big you are, no matter how much deposits and investments you had, and what kind of multi-trillion-dollar fund you're running, you can still be exposed to severe risk. And sometimes it's even harder to manage when you have more funds in management. Things can get quite messy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were just very surprised due to BlackRock's reputation. But I guess we'll see what happens in the future. The last story that I wanted to touch on was more NFT news. So there was two stories that kind of have the same theme. We saw that there were large brands that had NFTs in their new campaigns. So they used blockchain technology to launch new products and services, but they weren't calling them NFTs. They were avoiding the NFT, name due to stigma. Aside from like us people in like the crypto world, like the rest of the world has kind of this negative stigma on NFTs still. I think we might be moving away from that. But the other story that is, very similar is Minecraft banned NFTs from their game. We saw that the Epic Games CEO kind of responded by saying he doesn't think it's place to actually make that decision for users, and the Minecraft was in the wrong. And so what do you think is happening here? Do you think that, stories like this are just going to get phased out as NFTs technology becomes more and more accepted? Or do you actually think that the NFT name is going to kind of, be moved out of the market, as we saw kind of with Vayner NFT changing their name to Vayner 3?
First of all, I just recently went to one event here in New York and ran into several bankers from TradFi, non-crypto related. And whenever I come across, especially bankers or people from financial institutions that are not crypto related, I ask them right away, what do they think about crypto? I mean, my personal interest, I'm also using them later in the podcast and my articles. Of course, I'm telling them that, guys, I'm doing some personal research there. And a guy was like, oh, crypto, but it's so crashed. Crypto, I heard you guys are not doing that well. And I was like, yeah, what about financial markets? So there are a lot of news and that, oh my God, crypto crashed. Bitcoin is trading at 20,000. Well, yeah, and at what level we see lots of tech stocks being traded at? What about our investment banks? How do they feel right now? What about hedge funds? That many of them also were exposed not only to crypto, but are certain cross-border transactions that, of course, imposed a severe risk and correction of their net assets. So he didn't have anything to answer to that. So I just decided to remove myself from a conversation. And that's going back to your question about NFTs. I also heard it from many people. And personally, yeah, when you have something overheated and people talking about it everywhere possible, and then obviously a bubble bursts and you're losing your funds, you start hating on it. It's just a human nature. Unfortunately, we are like that. We're gonna say that we're so smart. Look, I bought this JPEG, I flipped it, I earned, 100K. I'm making such good decisions. I'm so smart. I'm so good. Then, when you're losing your funds, you start blaming the project. Oh, they sold me some trash. They scammed me. It's an NFT. It's a scam. I got scammed. It's not my fault. I was just a victim here. So people would show off and say how good they are when they're earning money. And of course, they will blame everyone else and pretend to be a victim when they're losing funds. And I think that's quite unfair. And again, we're of course living in an unfair world, but that explains the situation. Of course, companies trying to remove it because it's not working as marketing anymore. And majority of these companies, I would say 95 or maybe 99%, I'm just making up it in my head as a number. I don't have an actual percentage, but I want to say that the vast majority of these projects were using NFT as a marketing trick. And of course, right now, NFT is not working anymore. There is no hype. They're quickly removing NFTs from their taglines and waiting till there's going to be a new trend. So they add it to their tagline. And for example, my project Flashback, when we started, we were saying that we are NFT ticketing, but we understood that we are not just there because of NFTs. And we stopped saying NFTs even when there was a hype on the market. We were just saying that we're edgier way to do ticketing and a more secure way to do ticketing. It's completely different. We were using technology for actual purpose. We had an actual utility for NFT technology, and we didn't really need to explain that we're using NFT. Because the project exists with a hype on the market and without. And right now we're actually getting way more requests than ever for NFT ticketing. So that explains that if you have utility, doesn't matter what you say, people gonna use it if it's actually needed for a market. But if you're just using it as a marketing trick, then of course it's obvious. At a certain moment you'll have to remove it. And Minecraft probably was making a marketing out of an opposite approach, banning NFTs to make news and people make and make people talk about them, like we're discussing them right now. Didn't really hear about them in quite a while, so now we hear about the project with their NFTs. And same way with our Supermoon camp, we were always educating and explaining people that utility comes first. And in Supermoon Camp, we are still on our way to launch our memberships where we're going to be using NFT technology. And here we're not just selling some JPEGs for people to flip them and quickly gain funds. No, you cannot easily buy their membership, like our NFT, because it's actual membership. It actually gives you access to a community, and you have to be approved to become a member based on your experience, activities in the space, initiatives that you are taking, your beliefs, and how you can contribute to overall network. Because we want to make sure that we gather people willing to make this market, to make the crypto space better and work on the more exciting projects with utility and not just pure hype and marketing. So I think in this case, it doesn't really matter. You can say NFT, but big projects, again, who just wanted to quick gains, a new marketing trick, it's no longer working.
Yeah, kind of like, I don't want to say, other fans, because it's kind of a different than that. That's kind of the idea, kind of just going with what's working at the time. But that was a wrap for all the questions and all the news topics that I had for this week in crypto. I wanted to thank everybody for tuning into Supermoon Station and for seeing all the news.
And subscribe to our channel and go to supermooncamp.com. There you can subscribe to our newsletter because we're preparing some really exciting events that will start happening in September in New York, and there might be more events happening international. So guys, subscribe to our newsletter to make sure you get updates on upcoming Supermoon camps, our Mansion on the Moon, and other events that we're preparing for you.